Good evening. Welcome to SGX live webinar tonight. Thanks everyone for taking your time off to attend this webinar tonight on capitalizing on CDP securities borrowing and lending scheme. Okay, so CDP security borrowing and lending scheme, we call it SBL for short. So let's go into the lesson proper right now. So for those of you who just joined us, a bit of disclaimer here first. Everything shared here today is for information purposes only and does not constitute any investment advice. So a bit about myself. My name is Adrian. I have been a speaker at SGX Academy for the past 5 years. My day job, I'm a professional broker. Mainly dealing in fixed income securities and equities. Okay, so your bonds and your stocks. Okay, so I serve clients such as yourselves, all the way to corporate clients as well as some listed companies for things like share buybacks. Okay, these are the topics that we'll be covering today. We'll start a bit about an introduction on the scheme, the SBL scheme, shares borrowing and lending scheme. We'll go a bit about the benefits you have and as a lender. So if you join this scheme as a lender, some of the benefits that you have. There will be some advantages as a borrower as well. Share borrowing and lending scheme goes both ways, borrowing and lending. Then we will explore a bit about how information on CDP's lending pool may affect stock prices or give you some cues to analyzing stock prices. So what is the SBL Securities Borrowing and Lending Scheme? Okay, so the Securities Borrowing and Lending Scheme involves the temporary transfer of the securities from the lender to the borrower. So in the case, not only the borrower will be a temporary owner of the securities. Okay, so under this scheme, CDP is in the middle, so the lender and borrower do not meet one another, do not meet each other. So the lender will face CDP, the borrower will face CDP. Now this is very important because in the previous few runs of this seminar, the main concern about this scheme by all the participants was that what happens if something happens to the other side? What happens if something happens to the borrower? What happens if something happens to the lender? But rest assured, in this scheme, both borrowers and lenders face CDP. So CDP will be obliged to return the shares to the lender as well as take back the shares from the borrower. Okay, and we will explore a bit about the details in a while. So in short, the securities borrowing and lending scheme involves the temporary transfer of the securities from the lender to the borrower. Okay. Next, who can participate as a borrower first? Okay, usually financial institutions on behalf of their clients. So as an investor, let's say as an individual, you can't just walk up to CDP and say, hey, I want to borrow 1,000 shares of DBS, for example. You have to go through your bank or your broker in order to do this. So as a borrower, CDP has a strict criteria and to assess every borrower. So not any financial institution can be a borrower. Usually it's the typical banks and brokers that are borrowers. And CDP will assess the eligibility periodically. And also, in order to borrow, right, CDP also requires a certain form of collateral. So as an example, normally, let's say, for example, I'm a broker by profession. So when we borrow, let's say, stocks on behalf of our clients, what happens is that CDP will ask us, the broker side, for some form of collateral. Say, let's say 10% of the value of the stocks that they are borrowing. In turn, we will require our client to come up with this collateral, this 10%, let's say. So for example, someone is borrowing $10,000 worth of stock. CDP will require, let's say, 10% as a collateral. So we'll tell the client, hey, we need to put down $1,000 as a collateral to be a borrower. Okay. So sometimes when stocks need to be borrowed, this is the process that happens. So I say again that borrowers typically are financial institutions on behalf of their clients, and there can be a small collateral involved when borrowing securities. Okay. Next, who can participate as a lender? Okay, so as a lender, direct account holders such as you and I can participate as a lender. As long as we have a CDP account, we are direct account holders, we can participate as a lender ourselves. So some people might say, hey, I have some stocks that are pledged with my bank or broker. Can I still participate? So yes, you can. So the other group that can participate as a lender are what we call depository agents on behalf of sub-account holders. So if let's say I have stocks that are pledged with a broker or bank, they are my depository agent. They can help me to participate in this scheme, right? And how they help us to participate in the scheme, how that the depository agents help their clients, the sub-account holders, participate in the scheme. It varies from company to company. Please inquire at your bank or broker how they can help you to participate in this scheme as a depository agent. Okay. Most importantly, you can join this program even though you do not have the eligible securities yet. So it means that it's a scheme where you can sign up for it even without having anything. And when you have the eligible, let's say, stock in your CDP account or the eligible stock with your depository agent, then the thing starts to go, right? So you can sign up even before you have the eligible securities, okay? So next, what type of securities are eligible for lending? Okay, so what are the securities to have in order to let this scheme roll, even though you can participate before you even have all these? So first of all, stocks listed on SGX for at least 6 months. Okay, stocks listed on SGX for at least 6 months. If the stock is not listed on SGX for at least 6 months, but if it becomes a component of the STI or the ST Mid Cap Index, it can also be an eligible security. So some stocks make it to the index in, let's say, 3 months after listing rather than 6 months, right? So in this case, they are still eligible for lending. Next is REITs and business trusts that are listed on SGX. Okay, these trade just like stocks, so again, they're eligible for lending. ETFs listed on SGX, so some of you may have STI ETF, for example, gold ETF, for example. These are eligible for lending. Next, dual currency traded securities with primary currency in Sing dollar. Example, Yangzijiang is listed on SGX in 2 currencies, Sing dollar as well as renminbi. But the primary listing, the one that is part of the one that you always normally see, will be the Sing dollar counter. So this is eligible for lending. Okay. Now we move on to securities that are not eligible for lending. Okay. First of all, SGX stock itself, SGX stock code S68 is not eligible for lending. Now, what are the implications of this? The implications of this, one of the simple implications that can affect you and I, will be a situation where we, let's say, oversell SGX stock. Now, when can that happen? That can happen if you, let's say, for example, from experience, my clients have put, let's say, for example, they only have 1,000 shares of SGX, and they put multiple queues, say a queue to sell at, let's say, $8.20, and a queue to sell at $8.30, and suddenly the price runs by more than 10 cents in maybe a few minutes, right? So both their sell orders get filled, and they are not aware of it until the next day. So what happens then? For in such cases, SGX stock is not eligible for buy-in. So unless the bank or the broking house can help you in some other way, otherwise you'll be you end up having SGX buy-in process kick in, right? So be careful, SGX stock is not eligible for lending. So please take care when you are trying to sell the stock, right? Next, stocks that are suspended or under judicial management. So stocks that are suspended may have some problems with them. They might be under judicial management, means they are almost at the brink of bankruptcy maybe. So but these stocks will not be eligible for lending. Okay, so one example of which is like the famous high flux case that's going on. High flux stock is currently suspended. It is not eligible for lending. Next, we have stocks that are excluded by SGX risk management function due to regulatory concerns. So this is almost the same as those that are suspended. So these stocks that have regulatory concerns may be suspended as well, but they may not be. So, but once there are regulatory concerns, these stocks are not eligible for lending. Next, we have REITs and business trusts that have been suspended or pose regulatory concerns, which is similar to the last 2 points. And we also have dual currency securities that have the primary listing in foreign currency. So in US dollar and Sing dollar, but the US dollar is the primary listing, as well as like example like Cromwell REIT, that the primary listing is in euro rather than Sing dollar, right? So they have Sing dollar and they have euro, but the primary listing is considered euro, okay? And finally, securities that are purchased using CPF or SRS. So for those who are familiar with cash trading, you do know that you can normally pay in cash, that where the stock ends up going to CDP, and some people might connect it with CPF investment account or SRS investment scheme, right? So if you are making payment for your purchases using CPF or SRS, it will go to the respective agencies. So it will not go to CDP. So because your stock is not purchased using CPF and SRS are not kept with CDP, so it is not eligible for lending. Okay. So next, is there a minimum quantity for those eligible securities? So to make it simple, anything below $1, you need at least 10,000 units of the security, so 10,000 shares. So if you have something that is, let's say, 50 cents, you need 10,000 shares in order to be eligible for lending, right? If it's a security that is more than $1, you need more than $10,000 worth in value. So let's say you have 1,000 shares of DBS, for example. That is definitely more than $10,000 in value. But even if you have 500 shares of DBS, that can also be more than $10,000 in value, since DBS is slightly above $20 right now. Next, do I have to lend out all my securities when I sign up as a lender? If you do not indicate, so later we will see how. I'll show you a concrete example of this. If you do not indicate, automatically everything will be included. So everything in your CDP account, which is eligible for lending, will be included in the scheme, right? However, you can indicate when you are signing up, or even later on after you have signed up, to exclude certain securities or certain quantities to be part of your lending pool. Okay, how we're going to do that, we will explore that in a while. Next, how do I register as a lender? Okay, there are a few ways. You can download the form online. You can call CDP customer service for a form. CDP service center, customer service center is currently closed, so can't walk up to the service center and say that you want to sign up for the scheme. Of course, you can mail in a completed form. All this is free of charge. Registration is free of charge. There is no charge to be part of the scheme. Okay. So we talk about the form to be part of the scheme. This is how the form looks like on the left side. So for those of you who are eager to sign up, there is an online registration that you can do right now with your mobile phone. where you scan this QR code on the right side. Okay, so if you want to see the full form and you want to see the online version and you're eager to sign up right now, you can do so. You can do so. Like I said, you can sign up without even having any eligible securities. You can sign up right now using the QR code on the right side of the screen right now. So I say again, for those of you who want to zoom in on the form, which I will zoom in into the relevant section in the next slide, if you want to follow this, you can scan the QR code on the right side and it will bring you to the online registration and to this form. Okay, so scan the QR code if you would like right now. Right now, I would like to focus on this section where we mentioned that you do not need to put all eligible securities as part of the lending pool that you are lending out. Okay, why would you might want to do so? We will explain a bit more later. But right now, there's section 3 of the form over here. This part is being zoomed in, where you can tick that you want to include all eligible securities. Okay, or you might have, let's say, for example, you might have stock A, B, and C, and you say, I want to lend out everything except stock C, let's say. So you say all eligible securities excluding below securities, right? So let's say you put the name of stock C over here and say that, hey, I want to lend out my A and B, but not stock C, okay? And the other way you can do it is that you can say that I want to lend out all my eligible securities except certain quantities. So let's say you have 10,000 shares of each. Stock A, stock B, and stock C. You have 10,000 shares of each, and it happens that all of them are above $1. So when all of them are above $1, you only need to have a minimum of $10,000 worth. So you might say that, hey, I want to lend out half of my quantities. I only want to lend out half of my 10,000 shares of stock A, half of my 10,000 shares of stock B, and half of my 10,000 shares of stock C. So you will take this all eligible securities, excluding the securities with the specified quantity, and you can specify that you only want, you can specify that you only want 5,000 shares of each to be put into the lending pool. Okay. Once again, why you might want to do that, we will explore that very quickly in a while.